Hello, movie lovers. Welcome back to SignaTeek channel. Today is all about fresh cinema experiences, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on the newest film making its mark. Sit back, relax, and let's dive into the recap of this exciting cinematic adventure. The movie needs to build a plot that hits all the usual action movie beats. So, it goes without saying that human traffickers are shady people who try to take children away from their families. The sad reality is that most human trafficking victims are not attacked by strangers or disappear into the night. Instead, they are typically manipulated over long periods of time by someone they know, such as a family member, friend, or partner, according to a report by the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Planning and Evaluation. The most widespread forms of human trafficking are not dramatic or cinematic. It makes sense that The Sound of Freedom would focus on this much rarer form of human trafficking. It's more important to be aware of subtle signs of emotional and physical abuse from close friends and loved ones than to worry about strangers on the street. There is no denying that human trafficking is a serious global problem, but in order to address it, people need to understand it properly. The Sound of Freedom doesn't just misunderstand how human trafficking generally works. It also greatly distorts who the victims of human trafficking are. The film focuses on the case of two young brothers who are trafficked into the sex industry. In fact, most of the victims portrayed in the movie are children, but that doesn't completely reflect reality. Most victims still disagree with the portrayal of movies, especially when it comes to the subject of child trafficking. Most trafficked children are adolescents or teenagers, most between the ages of 15 and 17. They often come from underrepresented communities, and many are taken in by traffickers after being forced from their homes. A minority of human trafficking victims are young children, and the sad truth is that the parents of these victims are often involved in human trafficking. Similar to the portrayal of human trafficking in the film, the portrayal of the victims also makes sense within the context of the film. Audiences will have a deep emotional response when they see young children portrayed as victims of human trafficking in this film. But again, understanding the truth about human trafficking is a prerequisite to addressing this problem in the real world. The movie begins in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. A young girl, Rocio Aguilar, plays the drums and sings a song. Former beauty queen Giselle comes to the Aguilar household, and she speaks with Rocio's father, Roberto. She claims that she is with the Child Star Agency because she heard Rocio's song in her market and they want to sign her. Rocio's brother Miguel then arrives and gets Giselle's attention. Roberto takes the children to the studio, where they spend time with another group of children. Giselle lets them take a photo together and tells Roberto when to pick him up. When he enters the building at the appointed time, he finds it dark and empty and panics. We then see the children being loaded into a van with Giselle and taken to a new destination. Tim Ballard, a Homeland Security agent working as a sex slave in Calexico, California, prepares an operation to capture Ernst Osinski, a wanted pedophile and child predator. They wait for him to begin downloading files about the captured children. A team of investigators arrived at Osinski's house and arrested him, while Tim captured approximately 300 pedophiles. He knows that unfortunately he was unable to find the victim. Tim takes Osinski out of his cell and tries to convince him that he is also a pedophile, to gain his trust and obtain new information about the captured children. They arrange a purchase that brings a child named Teddy Bear, who happens to be named Miguel. With the information he needs, Tim instructs the officers to take Osinski back to prison. Tim and the other agents head to the U.S.-Mexico border, where Miguel's buyer, Paul Beckman, arrives with the boy. Investigators arrest Miguel and Tim talks to the boy to comfort him. He invites Miguel to dinner, where Miguel talks about how his time was taken away and trapped for what seemed like months. The flashback shows Caviezel and his minions taking the frightened children shopping, and what Miguel did after he bought it for me. Miguel tells Tim that Rocio is still trapped and asks him to help find her. He also shows Tim the Saint Timoteo necklace that Rocio gave him to protect him. Miguel is returned to Roberto, who tells Tim how difficult it is not to have his two children return. Tim returns home to his wife Catherine, with whom he has 6 children. She sympathizes with Roberto's pain as he opposes Tim's decision to eliminate sex traffickers. Despite her boss, Frost's advice against it, Tim's mission takes her to Cartagena, Colombia, where her children are taken. He meets and collaborates with former cartel member Vampiro. Learning that there is a sex hotel in Thailand, he comes up with the idea of setting up a sex hotel in Colombia to attract Giselle and her men. They also learn Giselle's background and that her real name is Katie Jewers. Tim and Vampiro arrange a meeting with one of Katie's men and arrange for all of Katie's captured children to be brought to the new location. After Tim and Vampiro gather more information about the traffickers, they tell their personal stories. He was spending time with a girl he thought was between 20 and 25 years old, but learned she was 14 years old and had been trafficked since she was 6 years old. Although this causes Vampiro to attempt suicide, he believes that his God-given goal is to save his children. Tim agrees. Tim is contacted by Frost, who tells him he cannot fund the mission and advises him to return home. Tim resigns and vows to complete his mission with Vampiro's help. They team up with a police officer named Jord to get Katie and her men in place. The team sets up a place on the beach and half of the children are taken there. One of Katie's henchmen, a man named Khan, is caught sneaking away with a small boy named Simba. Tim tries to stop them, which results in Khan's henchman threatening Tim with a gun until Vampiro intervenes. The remaining children were brought in, and Mr. Frost sent U.S. Embassy personnel to assist. Investigators arrive on the scene and arrest Katie and her henchmen, who were trying to play the victim. After the victim is arrested, the children gather to play and sing, and then Vampiro tells Tim that he can hear the sound of freedom. There are 54 children rescued, but unfortunately, Rocio is not among them. One of Katie's men is interrogated by Tim's men and confesses upon learning that Khan was killed in his cell. He says Rocio was sold to the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, specifically to a man named El Alaculan, aka Scorpion. George tells Tim that there is no way to save the girl because no one will go to rebel-held areas. However, Vampiro gets the idea that they are pretending to be doctors. Tim and Vampiro cross the river in a boat before being spotted by armed rebels. They take Tim after searching through their belongings and finding the vaccine. He is taken to Scorpion's camp where he finds Rocio and is supposed to manufacture cocaine there. At night, Tim waits for Scorpion and his minions to drink and sing while he tries to save Rocio. She screams when she sees him, but he calms her down and does as he says. Unfortunately, Scorpion heard her screams and went to check on her. He takes her and prepares to rape her girlfriend again. But Tim attacks him and they fight until Scorpion kills him. He takes Rocio away before the other men realize their boss is dead. Tim jumps on a boat and reaches Vampiro in a van, but the rebels shoot at them, but they manage to escape. Before they part, Tim returns Timothy's necklace that Miguel gave him to Rocio. She is found in the hospital by Roberto and Miguel, who happily reunite with her and take her back to Honduras. So she finds her real drum in her room that her father brought for her and starts playing and singing her songs. The last sentence states that the witness statement is about the real Tim Ballard. He helped Congress recover more than 120 human trafficking victims and enacted new laws governing the government's cooperation with foreign countries. During the sex trafficking investigation, Timms is believed to have made Cassie's decision to take on the assignment. The final sentence states that more people are sold into slavery today than when slavery was legal, and that many of the victims are children. And the movie ends here. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed this film recap and want more, subscribe now, like, and share captivating stories with your friends. Tell me which movie you'd like me to summarize next. See you soon.